The autumn wind swept through the streets of Virginia Beach, carrying with it the salty breath of the Atlantic Ocean. Fallen leaves danced across the sidewalk as 7-year-old Emma Mitchell clutched her mother's hand, her small fingers wrapped tightly around the familiar warmth. The oversized jacket she wore, navy blue with gold trim, hung past her wrists, the sleeves rolled up 3 times so her hands could peek through. Sarah Mitchell looked down at her daughter, her heart clenching at the sight of that jacket. It had been Marcus's. The Navy SEAL trident emblem on the left chest caught the morning light, a golden eagle clutching an anchor and trident, the symbol of everything her husband had been, everything he had given. "Mommy, do I have to go?" Emma's voice was small, almost lost in the wind. Sarah knelt down on the sidewalk, right there in front of Ocean View Elementary School, not caring about the other parents walking past with their children. She tucked a strand of Emma's dark hair behind her ear, the same hair Marcus had, thick and stubborn. "Baby, I know it's scary. New school, new people." New. But remember what Daddy always said. Emma's brown eyes, Marcus's eyes, filled with tears, she was trying desperately not to shed. The only easy day was yesterday. That's right. Sarah's voice cracked, but she held it together. She had to. For Emma. And what else? Never quit. Never quit. Sarah pulled her daughter into a fierce hug, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo mixed with something else, the faint smell of Marcus's cologne that still lingered in that jacket, even after 8 months. "You've got this, sweetheart. You're a Mitchell. And Mitchells don't give up." Emma pulled back, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "What if nobody likes me? Then they're missing out on knowing the bravest, kindest, most wonderful girl in the whole world." Sarah kissed her forehead. "I'll be right here at 3 o'clock. Right here." "Okay," Emma nodded, squaring her small shoulders in a gesture so reminiscent of Marcus that Sarah had to look away for a moment to compose herself. "I love you, Mommy. I love you more, baby girl. To the moon and back. To the stars and beyond." Emma finished their ritual, the words Marcus had started when she was just a baby. Sarah watched her daughter walk toward the school entrance, that oversized jacket making her look even smaller than she was. Other children streamed past her, laughing and calling out to friends, but Emma walked alone, her backpack, also navy blue, bouncing against her small frame. The school doors swallowed her up, and Sarah stood there for a long moment, the October wind drying the tears on her cheeks. Inside Ocean View Elementary, Emma followed the signs to room 14, Mrs. Patterson's second-grade class. The hallways smelled like floor wax and crayons, sounds she didn't recognize bouncing off the walls. At her old school in San Diego, she knew every corner, every teacher's name, every crack in the playground pavement. Here, everything was foreign. She found room 14 and hesitated at the door. Through the small window, she could see children already seated at clusters of desks, talking and laughing. A woman with grey-streaked hair and kind eyes stood at the front, writing something on the whiteboard. Emma took a deep breath, the way her daddy had taught her. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Feel your feet on the ground. You're stronger than you know. She pushed open the door. The room didn't go silent right away. Mrs. Patterson looked up first, her face breaking into a warm smile. "You must be Emma. Come in, come in. Class, we have a new student joining us today." Now the room went quiet. 23 pairs of eyes turned toward the door, toward the small girl standing there in a jacket that was clearly too big for her. Her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail that was already coming loose. Emma felt her cheeks burn. She wanted to run, to find her mother, to go back to San Diego where everything made sense, where her daddy's laugh still echoed in their house, where the neighbors knew her name. Then a boy in the front row saw it, the emblem on her jacket. "Hey," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "That's a Navy SEAL thing. My uncle's in the Navy. That's what the SEALs wear." The silence deepened. Children leaned forward in their seats, craning to see. Mrs. Patterson's smile faltered slightly, a shadow of understanding crossing her face. "That's very observant, Tyler," she said carefully. "Emma, would you like to introduce yourself?" Emma's throat felt like it was closing up. She could feel everyone staring at the jacket, at the emblem, at her. She thought about running. She thought about crying. She thought about her daddy's voice, calm and steady, the way it had been on the phone the last time they talked. "You're my brave girl, Emma. Whatever happens, you be brave. Can you do that for me?" She straightened her spine. "My name is Emma Mitchell. I'm 7 years old. I moved here from San Diego." She paused, her small hand coming up to touch the emblem on her chest. "This was my daddy's jacket. He was a Navy SEAL." "Was?" a girl with red pigtails asked, her voice curious. "He's not anymore." Mrs. Patterson stepped forward quickly. "Emma, why don't you take a seat right over there next to Lily?" "Lily, raise your hand, please." A girl with glasses and brown skin raised her hand shyly from a desk near the window. Emma walked toward her, feeling every step like she was walking through water. The whispers started before she even sat down. Was her dad a real Navy SEAL? Why'd she say was? "My mom says SEALs are like the toughest soldiers ever." "Is he dead?" "I bet he's dead." Emma heard that last one. A boy named Derek, she'd learn later, big for his age, with a mean smile. She pretended not to hear, sliding into the seat next to Lily and staring straight ahead at the whiteboard. Lily leaned over slightly. "I like your jacket," she whispered. "Blue's my favorite color." Emma looked at her, surprised. "Thanks. I'm Lily. I've been here since kindergarten. I can show you where stuff is if you want." For the first time since walking into the school, Emma felt something loosen in her chest. "Okay." Mrs. Patterson clapped her hands, drawing attention back to the front of the room. "All right, everyone, let's get started with morning reading. Take out your books, please." The morning passed in a blur of worksheets and reading exercises. Emma kept her head down, focusing on the work, trying to ignore the glances that kept coming her way. The jacket was warm, too warm for inside, but she refused to take it off. It was like armor, like her daddy was still wrapped around her, keeping her safe. During math, Lily slid a piece of paper onto Emma's desk. On it was a drawing of 2 stick figures holding hands, one with glasses and one wearing a big blue jacket. Above it, in careful letters, "Friends?" Emma looked at Lily, who was pretending to focus on her worksheet but kept glancing over. Emma picked up her pencil and wrote back, "Friends." She added a smiley face for good measure. Lily's grin was so wide it seemed to light up the whole classroom. At recess, everything changed. He came with 2 other boys, flanking him like soldiers. Emma recognized the formation. She'd seen it in her daddy's photos, the way the teams would move together. "So your dad was a SEAL, huh?" Derek's voice was loud, carrying across the playground. Other children started drifting closer, sensing something interesting. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. "Was?" Derek repeated, his smile growing. "That means he's dead, right? My mom heard about you. Said your dad got blown up." The words hit Emma like a physical blow. She stumbled back a step, her vision blurring with sudden tears. "My daddy didn't get blown up," she said, her voice shaking. "He was a hero. Heroes don't die," Derek laughed. "My dad says that. Heroes win. If your dad was so tough, how come he's dead?" The other children were circling now, a ring of curious faces. Some looked uncomfortable, but no one stepped forward. Emma felt trapped, surrounded, the way she imagined animals felt in cages. "He was protecting people," Emma said, her voice getting stronger despite the tears streaming down her face. "He was protecting people like you and your dad and everyone. That's what he did. He protected people. He didn't protect himself, though, did he?" Derek stepped closer. "My dad says guys who join the military are dumb, says they couldn't get real jobs." Something snapped in Emma. Later, she wouldn't remember exactly what happened. She remembered Derek's smug face, remembered the laughter of his friends, remembered the emblem pressing against her chest like a heartbeat. She remembered her daddy's voice not telling her to fight, but telling her to stand up. "Stand up for what's right, Emma, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." "My daddy was the smartest person I ever knew," Emma said, her voice cutting through the noise. She wasn't shouting. Seals don't shout, her daddy had told her. They speak with authority. He could speak 3 languages. He went to college before he joined. He helped people all over the world. He saved lives. How many lives has your dad saved? Derek's smile faltered. He taught me how to swim, and how to read, and how to be brave. He taught me that bullies are just scared people who want everyone else to be scared too. Is that what you are, Derek? Scared? The playground had gone completely silent. Even the soccer game had stopped, kids turning to watch the small girl in the oversized jacket stand her ground against the biggest boy in 2nd grade. Derek's face went red. I'm not scared of anything. Then why are you being mean to me? Emma asked, genuinely curious now, her tears drying. I didn't do anything to you. I don't even know you. Why would you say mean things about my daddy when you didn't even know him? Derek had no answer. He stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish, his friends shifting uncomfortably beside him. That's enough. The voice came from behind Emma. She turned to see a tall boy, maybe 10 or 11, with sandy hair and serious eyes. He was wearing a T-shirt with the American flag on it. Leave her alone, Derek. This isn't your business, Jake. Yeah, it is. Jake walked forward, positioning himself next to Emma. My dad served too. 2 tours in Afghanistan. You want to say something about him? Derek's face went from red to white. I wasn't... Yeah, you were. Jake looked down at Emma, his expression softening. You okay? Emma nodded, even though she wasn't sure if that was true. Come on, Jake said. I'll take you to the office. You can call your mom if you want. Emma shook her head. No, I'm okay. I don't want to call my mom. Jake raised an eyebrow. You sure? My daddy said you never quit. I'm not quitting on my first day. Something flickered in Jake's eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Okay, then let me introduce you to some people. My friends are pretty cool. As Jake led Emma away from Derek and his silent friends, Lily came running up, out of breath. Emma! I'm so sorry. I couldn't find you. And then someone said Derek was being mean and... It's okay, Emma said. I handled it. Lily looked at her with something like awe. You did? My daddy taught me how. Jake smiled. Your dad sounds like he was pretty great. He was the best, Emma said simply. They walked toward a group of kids sitting on the benches near the basketball court, and Emma felt something shift in her chest. Not healed. She didn't think she'd ever fully heal, but something. A tiny crack of light in the darkness. The rest of the day was easier. Word spread quickly, as it does in elementary schools, about the new girl who stood up to Derek, about her dad who was a Navy SEAL, about the jacket she wore like armor. By the time Sarah's car pulled up at 3 o'clock, Emma was walking out with Lily on one side and Jake on the other, 2 more kids trailing behind them, all talking at once. Sarah's heart nearly stopped. Then it started again, beating with something it hadn't felt in 8 months. Hope. Mommy! Emma ran to the car, her face flushed with excitement. I made friends. This is Lily and Jake and Marcus and Sophia. Jake's dad was in the army. We're going to eat lunch together tomorrow. Sarah got out of the car, kneeling down to pull Emma into a hug. Over her daughter's shoulder, she saw the other children waving, saw a tall boy with sandy hair give a respectful nod before walking away. I'm so proud of you, baby, Sarah whispered. I didn't quit, Mummy, just like Daddy said. Sarah closed her eyes, holding her daughter tight, the emblem on that jacket pressing against her chest like a promise. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She lay in her new bedroom, the one that still didn't feel like hers, staring at the ceiling. The walls were blank. They hadn't had time to put up her posters yet, all still packed in boxes in the corner. The only familiar thing was the framed photo on her nightstand. Her daddy in his dress uniform, smiling that big smile, his arm around her at her 5th birthday party. The jacket hung on the back of her door. She'd finally taken it off before dinner, but only because her mum said she needed to let it air out. Emma had watched her mother hang it carefully, smoothing the fabric, her fingers lingering on the emblem. Daddy? Emma whispered into the darkness. Can you hear me? No answer. There never was. But she kept talking anyway, the way she did every night. I made friends today. A girl named Lily who really likes blue, and a boy named Jake whose dad was in the army too. There was a mean boy named Derek, but I didn't let him make me cry. Well, I cried a little, but then I stopped. I remembered what you said about standing up. She pulled her blanket up higher, tucking it under her chin. I miss you, Daddy. Mommy tries to hide it, but she cries a lot. I hear her at night when she thinks I'm asleep. I want to make her feel better, but I don't know how. I wish you could tell me. The house creaked, settling in the autumn cold. Emma's eyes started to feel heavy. I wore your jacket today. It smells like you. Don't worry, I'm taking care of it. I won't let anything happen to it, I promise. She was asleep before she could say goodnight. Down the hall, Sarah sat on her bed, holding a different photo. This one was from their wedding day 12 years ago, when the world was full of possibility and the future seemed infinite. Marcus in his dress whites, her in her grandmother's wedding dress, both of them laughing at something his best man had said. She traced the line of his jaw with her finger. She was so brave today, Sarah said softly. You would have been so proud. She stood up to this bully all by herself, defending your honor, defending what you stood for. She's got so much of you in her, Marcus. Sometimes it hurts to look at her. The house was quiet except for the wind outside. I don't know if I can do this. Raise her alone. Be enough for her. She needs her father, and I can't. Sarah's voice broke. I can't be you. I don't know how to teach her the things you were going to teach her, how to be strong, how to be brave, how to keep going when everything hurts. She set the photo down and wiped her eyes. The grief counselor says it gets easier, that one day I'll wake up and the first thing I think about won't be you. That terrifies me. I don't want to forget. I don't want a day to go by where you're not my first thought and my last thought and every thought in between. She lay back on the bed, still wearing her clothes, too exhausted to change. I hope wherever you are you can see her. See how amazing she is. She wore your jacket to school, looked like she was swimming in it, but she wouldn't take it off. Said it made her feel like you were hugging her. Sarah closed her eyes, a small smile crossing her lips despite the tears. To the moon and back, Marcus, to the stars and beyond. The weeks passed, and slowly, imperceptibly, Virginia Beach started to feel less foreign. Emma learned the route from their new house to school, memorizing the landmarks, the big oak tree on the corner of Maple and Fifth, the house with the garden gnomes, the fire hydrant that looked like it had a face. She learned which lunch lady gave bigger portions of mashed potatoes, Mrs. Garcia, which bathroom had the best hand dryers, the one near the gym, and which hallway to avoid if she didn't want to run into Derek, the one by the music room. Lily became her shadow and her shield. The quiet girl with glasses turned out to have a fierce protective streak, inserting herself between Emma and anyone who looked at her funny. They ate lunch together every day, trading sandwich halves and talking about everything and nothing. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after Emma's first day, Lily invited her over to her house for the first time. Lily's mom, Mrs. Chen, had made cookies, and Lily's room was filled with books. They spent the afternoon looking at Lily's rock collection, dozens of rocks, each one labeled with a small piece of tape. This one's from the beach, Lily explained. And this one my grandpa sent from China. It's called Tiger's Eye. It's beautiful. My grandpa says rocks hold memories. Like the earth remembers everything that's ever happened, and rocks are like little pieces of that memory. Lily reached into her box and pulled out a small pink stone. This is rose quartz. It's supposed to help with love and healing. She pressed it into Emma's palm. You can have it, for when you miss your daddy. Thank you. This is the best rock anyone's ever given me. It's the only rock anyone's ever given you. Still the best. Do you still think about him a lot? Lily asked one day, about a month after Emma had started at Ocean View. They were sitting under their tree, because they had a tree now. A big maple at the edge of the playground that they'd claimed as their own. Emma picked at the grass, pulling up small tufts. Every day, every minute, kind of. Is that weird? My grandpa died last year, Lily said. I still think about him. My mom says that means he's still with us in a way. Like, as long as we remember people, they're not really gone. Emma considered this. My daddy said something like that once. He said the people we love become part of us. Like they're woven into our, what did he call it? Our DNA. What's DNA? I don't really know. Something inside us that makes us who we are. Lily nodded seriously. That makes sense. You're a lot like your dad, right? That's his DNA in you. Emma touched the emblem on her jacket. She still wore it every day, despite her mother's attempts to convince her that she didn't need to. Yeah. My mom says I have his eyes and his stubbornness. My mom says I have my dad's nose. Lily scrunched up her face. I don't really like my nose. I like your nose. It's a good nose. Thanks, Lily smiled. Your jacket's cool too. I know I already said that, like 1,000,000 times. But it is. The bell rang, signaling the end of recess. The girls gathered their things and headed back toward the building, walking close enough that their shoulders bumped occasionally. Do you want to come over this weekend? Lily asked. My mom said it's okay. She's going to make her special lasagna. Emma's face lit up. Really? I have to ask my mom, but I think she'll say yes. Cool. We can watch movies and I'll show you my new rocks. I got some from the museum store. More rocks. Always more rocks. You can never have too many rocks. Emma laughed. I'll bring the rose quartz you gave me. We can have a rock party. A rock party! Lily's eyes went wide with excitement. That's the best idea ever! They parted ways at the hallway junction, Lily heading to her music class while Emma walked toward room 14. She was almost there when a voice stopped her. Emma Mitchell. She turned to see a woman she didn't recognize, wearing a visitor's badge and holding a clipboard. The woman had kind eyes and silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Yes? My name is Mrs. Harper. I'm the school counselor. I was wondering if you'd like to come talk to me for a few minutes. Emma hesitated. She'd talked to counselors before, in San Diego after her daddy died. They always wanted to know how she was feeling, as if she could put it into words. As if there were words big enough for the hole in her heart. Am I in trouble? Mrs. Harper smiled. Not at all. I just like to check in with new students, see how they're settling in. It'll only take a few minutes. I've already let Mrs. Patterson know. Emma followed her down the hall to a small office decorated with plants and soft lighting. There were posters on the walls with messages like, Feelings of visitors, let them come and go, and It's okay to not be okay. Have a seat, Emma. Mrs. Harper gestured to a comfortable-looking chair. Can I get you some water? Hot chocolate. Hot chocolate, please. While Mrs. Harper prepared the drinks using a small kettle in the corner, Emma looked around the office. There was a shelf full of fidget toys and stress balls, a small sand garden on the desk, and more photos on the walls. Children smiling, playing, creating art. Here you go. Mrs. Harper handed her a mug and sat down across from her. So, how are you liking Ocean View so far? It's okay. I like my teacher. And I made friends. I heard. Lily Chen and Jake Morrison, right? Emma nodded, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. I also heard about what happened on your first day. With Derek. Emma's shoulders tensed. I didn't do anything wrong. I know. I'm not saying you did. I actually think you handled it remarkably well. Mrs. Harper leaned forward slightly. What Derek said was cruel and wrong. And how you responded, standing up for yourself for your father, that took courage. My daddy taught me to be brave. He sounds like he was a wonderful father. Emma's grip on the mug tightened. He was. Would you like to tell me about him? For a moment, Emma didn't answer. Then slowly, she began to talk. She told Mrs. Harper about the fort they used to build in the living room using couch cushions and blankets, about the bedtime stories he would make up where Emma was always the hero saving the world, about the way he would swing her up onto his shoulders so she could see over crowds, about his laugh, big and booming, that made her feel like nothing bad could ever happen. She told her about the swimming lessons in the backyard pool, how patient he was, even when she was scared of putting her face in the water, about the pancakes he made every Sunday morning, shaped like animals that never quite looked like animals. But the way he called her Em and baby girl and my little warrior. She told her about the last time she saw him at the airport, how he'd knelt down and made her promise to take care of her mother, how he'd told her he loved her enough to fill the whole ocean and then some, how she hadn't wanted to let go of his hand. She told her about the day the men came to the door, 2 of them in their dress uniforms, how her mother had made a sound Emma had never heard before and hoped to never hear again. How everything after that was a blur of casseroles and visitors and people saying they were sorry. By the time she finished, she was crying, and so was Mrs. Harper. "Thank you for sharing that with me, Emma," Mrs. Harper said, her voice thick. "That was incredibly brave. You carry so much inside you." "Sometimes it feels too heavy," Emma admitted, wiping her face with her sleeve. "I imagine it does. Grief is heavy. It's the heaviest thing there is." Mrs. Harper handed her a tissue. "But you know what I've learned in my years of doing this job? The things we carry become lighter when we share them. When we let other people help us carry the weight." Emma thought about Lily, about Jake, about her mother. "Like a team?" Mrs. Harper smiled. "Exactly like a team. My daddy always talked about his team, his brothers he called them. He said they would do anything for each other. And now you're building your own team, Lily, Jake, your mom, even me if you want." Mrs. Harper reached out and gently patted Emma's hand. "You don't have to carry this alone, Emma. That's not how it works." Later, walking back to class, Emma felt something strange. Not lighter exactly, but different. Like the weight had shifted somehow, redistributed. It was still there, would probably always be there, but for the first time she thought maybe she didn't have to carry it alone. She started meeting with Mrs. Harper every week after that. Sometimes they talked about her daddy. Sometimes they talked about school or Lily or the books she was reading. It helped. Slowly, bit by bit, it helped. November arrived with cold winds and grey skies. Sarah Mitchell stood in the kitchen, staring at a piece of paper that had come home in Emma's backpack. It was decorated with clip-art turkeys and autumn leaves, but the words on it hit her like a punch to the gut. "Ocean View, Elementary Presents, Turkey Trot Family Fun Run. Saturday, November 18th, 3-mile run for kids and parents. Sign up today." Below it, in Emma's careful handwriting, "Mommy, can we do this? Please, please, please." "Daddy would want us to." Sarah set the paper down and gripped the edge of the counter. Marcus had been a runner. Not just a runner, a beast, the guys in his unit used to say. He could run for hours without breaking a sweat, had completed every marathon in Virginia at least twice. He'd been training Emma too, little runs around the neighborhood, building her endurance. "You've got a runner's heart, Em," he told her. "Long and strong, just like your old man." They were supposed to run a 5K together this year, father and daughter. It was supposed to be Emma's first real race. "Mommy!" Sarah turned to see Emma standing in the doorway, her expression hopeful and terrified at the same time. "I found the flyer," Sarah said. "Turkey Trot." Emma nodded, twisting her hands together. "Jake's doing it with his dad, and Lily's doing it with her mom. I thought maybe—" She trailed off, looking at the floor. Sarah crossed the kitchen and knelt in front of her daughter. "You want us to do it together? Daddy was going to run with me, this year. He promised. But he can't, so I thought maybe—" "You don't have to if you don't want to. I know you don't like running, Emma." Sarah cupped her daughter's face in her hands. "I would love to run with you." Emma's eyes went wide. "Really? Really? But we're going to have to train. 3 miles is a lot. Think you can handle some early morning runs before school?" "Yes, I can handle it." "I'm a Mitchell," Sarah laughed, the sound surprising her. It had been so long since she'd laughed. "Yes, you are. Okay, we start tomorrow, 5:30 a.m. 5:30? Emma's enthusiasm wavered slightly. "Your daddy used to run at 4:30. Consider yourself lucky." That night, Sarah dug through the closet until she found her old running shoes. She'd bought them years ago during a short-lived attempt to keep up with Marcus. They'd lasted about 2 weeks before she'd admitted defeat. But this was different. This was for Emma. The next morning, in the purple darkness before dawn, Sarah and Emma stood on their front porch, breath fogging in the cold air. Emma was wearing her father's jacket, the sleeves still rolled up, her small legs bare beneath running shorts. "You sure you don't want to wear something warmer?" Sarah asked, eyeing the jacket. "I'm sure. Daddy's keeping me warm." Sarah didn't argue. She'd learned to choose her battles. They started slow, barely more than a jog, their feet finding rhythm on the quiet streets. The neighborhood was still asleep, houses dark except for occasional kitchen lights where early risers were making coffee. Their breath came in small clouds, disappearing into the air. "Daddy used to sing when he ran," Emma said, already slightly out of breath. "What did he sing?" "Usually something old, songs his daddy taught him." Sarah smiled. Marcus's father had been a Marine, fought in Vietnam. He'd passed away before Emma was born, but Marcus kept his memory alive through stories and songs. "Do you remember any of them?" Emma started to hum, the melody wobbly and uncertain. Sarah recognized it after a few bars, an old military cadence, one Marcus used to sing while doing yard work. "I don't know, but I've been told," Sarah began, her voice quiet. Emma's face lit up. "You know it? Your daddy sang it to me on our first date, tried to impress me with his running skills." Sarah laughed at the memory. "I kept up with him for about half a mile before almost passing out." "What happened then?" "He carried me to a coffee shop and bought me the biggest latte they had. Told me anyone who was stubborn enough to try to keep up with a SEAL was someone he wanted to know better. He carried you, like I weighed nothing. Your daddy was very strong. I know, he used to carry me on his shoulders everywhere, even when I got too big." They ran in silence for a while, their feet beating a steady rhythm on the pavement. The sky was starting to lighten, pink and orange streaking the horizon. "Tell me another story about Daddy," Emma said. Sarah thought for a moment. "Did I ever tell you about the time he tried to cook Thanksgiving dinner?" "No. It was our first Thanksgiving as a married couple. Your daddy insisted he could handle everything. He'd watched cooking shows, bought all these fancy ingredients. What happened? The turkey caught fire. The mashed potatoes were lumpy. The pie was somehow both burnt and raw at the same time." Emma giggled. "That sounds bad." "It was terrible. We ended up eating pizza and watching football." Sarah smiled at the memory. "But you know what? It was perfect, because we were together. That's all that mattered to your daddy, being together." "I like this," Emma said finally. "Running with you, talking about Daddy. It's like he's here too." Sarah's throat tightened. "He is, baby. He always is." They trained every morning for the next 2 weeks, except Sundays, when Sarah insisted on sleeping in. Their routes got longer, their pace faster. Emma's legs ached and her lungs burned, but she never complained. Every morning she put on the jacket and showed up at the front door, ready to go. On one particularly cold morning, about a week before the race, Emma struggled. Her legs felt like lead, and she couldn't seem to catch her breath. "I can't," she panted, stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. "I can't do it, Mommy." Sarah stopped beside her. "Yes, you can. Remember what Daddy said? Never quit, but my legs hurt. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. Your daddy used to say that." Emma managed a small smile. "That sounds like something Daddy would say. He was a tough guy, but you know what made him toughest? He kept going even when it hurt, even when he was tired, even when he wanted to stop. That's what made him a SEAL." Emma looked at her mother. "Is that what you're doing, Mommy? Not giving up?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Every single day, baby. For you, for him, because that's what Mitchells do." Emma straightened her spine. "Okay, let's keep going." They finished their run, slower than usual, but steady. The day of the turkey trot arrived crisp and cold, with the sky so blue it hurt to look at. The parking lot of Ocean View Elementary was packed with families, children bouncing with excited energy, while parents stretched and sipped coffee from travel mugs. Sarah helped Emma pin her race number to her jacket, 137, and adjusted her ponytail. "How do you feel?" "Good." "Nervous?" "Good." Emma bounced on her toes. "Is Jake here?" "Over there." Sarah pointed to where Jake Morrison stood with his father, a tall man with the same sandy hair as his son and a slight limp that spoke to his own service. They were both wearing matching shirts that said Morrison Family Runners. Jake saw them and waved, pulling his father over. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is my dad, Colonel Morrison. Please, call me Dan." The colonel extended his hand, his grip firm but warm. "I've heard a lot about your daughter. She sounds like quite a kid." "She is," Sarah agreed. "And please call me Sarah." Dan's eyes lingered on the emblem on Emma's jacket. "I served with a Marcus Mitchell about 7 years ago. Afghanistan. Wouldn't happen to be my daddy," Emma said proudly. Dan's expression shifted, something deep and complicated moving behind his eyes. "Your daddy was one of the finest men I ever served with. Saved my life more times than I can count. He cleared his throat. "I was devastated when I heard. I'm sorry I didn't reach out sooner. Moving to a new duty station, getting Jake settled. But those are excuses. I should have found you." Sarah felt tears pricking her eyes. "You knew Marcus?" "I did. He talked about you and Emma all the time. You two were his whole world." Dan looked down at Emma. "He would be so proud of you right now, running in your first race, wearing his jacket. He's with you today, you know. In here." He tapped his chest. Emma nodded solemnly. "I know. That's why I'm going to do my best." "The only way to honor him," Dan agreed. "Run your race, Emma. Leave everything on that course." Lily came running up then, her mother trailing behind. "Emma, are you ready? I'm so nervous I think I might throw up." "Please don't throw up on me," Emma said, but she was smiling. "Mrs." Chen introduced herself to Sarah, and soon the parents were chatting while the kids huddled together, nervous energy bouncing between them. "We should make a pact," Jake said seriously. "No matter what, we all finish, even if we have to crawl." "Crawling sounds painful," Lily said. "It's just an expression. The point is we don't quit." Emma nodded. "Mitchells don't quit. And neither do Chens or Morrisons. Team No Quit, Lily declared. "That's our name." "Team No Quit," they all repeated, stacking their hands in the center like a sports team. The starting horn blasted, and they were off. The first mile was chaos, a sea of bodies jostling for position. Emma stayed close to her mother, their hands occasionally brushing. Jake and his father were ahead of them, Jake's shorter legs churning to keep up with his dad's long stride. "Pace yourself," Sarah reminded Emma. "Remember what we practiced. Slow and steady." But Emma felt anything but slow. She felt light, buoyant, as if the jacket was lifting her up rather than weighing her down. The cold air burned her lungs, but it was a good burn, a clean burn. They hit the 1-mile marker, a volunteer with a cowbell cheering them on. Sarah was already breathing hard, but Emma seemed to be finding her stride, her small legs eating up the ground. "You're doing great, sweetheart." Emma grinned, her cheeks flushed with cold and exertion. "Come on, Mommy, keep up." Lily appeared beside them, her mother nowhere in sight. "My mom said to go ahead. She's walking. I told her I'd meet her at the finish." "Team No Quit?" Emma asked. "Team No Quit," Lily confirmed. The two girls ran side by side, their ponytails bouncing in sync. Sarah fell back slightly, content to watch her daughter find her rhythm with her friend. The second mile was harder. The initial adrenaline faded, replaced by the grinding reality of putting one foot in front of the other. Emma's legs started to feel heavy, her breath coming in sharp gasps. "I don't know if I can," she panted. Sarah grabbed her hand. "Yes, you can. We're doing this together, one step at a time." Lily, struggling too, reached out and grabbed Emma's other hand. "Team No Quit, remember?" They passed a group of parents who had stopped to walk, their kids racing ahead. They passed a little boy who had tripped and was crying while his mother helped him up. They passed a water station and grabbed cups, spilling more than they drank. "Half a mile to go," Sarah said, checking her watch. "We're going to finish, Emma. We're going to do this." Emma felt the jacket pressing against her, the emblem over her heart. She thought about her daddy, about all the miles he had run, all the missions he had completed, all the times he had pushed through when his body told him to stop. Never quit, she whispered. Never quit. The final stretch was uphill, a cruel twist that made Emma's thighs scream in protest. But she could see the finish line, could hear the cheering of the crowd, could see Jake already across, jumping up and down and yelling her name. "Come on, Emma! You got this!" She dug deep, deeper than she'd ever dug before, found a reserve she didn't know she had, felt a wind at her back that couldn't be explained by the weather. She crossed the finish line with her mother on one side and Lily on the other, all three of them clasping hands, tears streaming down their faces. The crowd erupted. Jake was there, hugging them all, and Dan Morrison, who lifted Emma onto his shoulders like she was a conquering hero. "You did it!" Lily shouted. "We did it!" "Team no quit." Emma looked down at her mother from her new vantage point, at the pride and love and grief all mixed together on her face. "We did it, Mommy," she said. "We did it together." Sarah reached up and squeezed her daughter's hand. "To the moon and back, baby girl. To the stars and beyond." Winter settled over Virginia Beach, bringing with it grey skies and cold winds off the ocean. The Christmas decorations went up on the streets, lights twinkling in the darkness that came earlier and earlier each day. In the Mitchell household, the approach of the holidays brought a particular kind of pain. Emma sat on the floor of the living room, surrounded by boxes of decorations her mother had reluctantly pulled from storage. Most of it was still packed. Their house in San Diego had been Christmas Central, Marcus going overboard every year with lights and inflatable Santas and a tree so tall it barely fit in the living room. Here, Sarah hadn't had the heart to decorate. But Emma had found the boxes, had pulled out the ornament her father had bought her every year since she was born. 7 of them now, each one commemorating something special. A baby's first Christmas, a ballet slipper from the year she'd taken dance, a tiny surfboard from their trip to Hawaii. "Can we put up the tree?" Emma asked, holding an ornament shaped like a seal trident. It had been Marcus's favorite, a gift from his team after his first deployment. Sarah looked up from her laptop, where she'd been half-heartedly scrolling through work emails. "Oh, baby, I don't know. It's a lot of work, and Daddy would want us to." It was Emma's trump card, the argument Sarah could never counter, because it was true. Marcus had loved Christmas more than anyone she'd ever known. He'd started playing Christmas music in October, had insisted on driving around to look at lights, even when it was freezing outside, had dressed up as Santa for Emma every year, even though she'd figured out the truth at age 5. He'd say Christmas is about family, Emma continued, about being together and making memories. He'd say we should celebrate extra hard this year because, her voice wavered, because he can't. Sarah set aside her laptop and went to sit beside her daughter on the floor. "You're right, he would say that." She picked up a garland of gold beads, letting them run through her fingers. "He'd probably be disappointed in me, hiding away from all this." "He wouldn't be disappointed," Emma said firmly. "He'd understand, but he'd also say it's time to stop hiding." Sarah laughed, a wet sound. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." They spent the rest of the afternoon decorating. Sarah found a small tree at the hardware store. Nothing like their usual massive fir, but enough to hold their ornaments and stand proudly in the corner of the living room. Emma carefully hung each ornament, telling stories about when they'd gotten them, what they meant. "This one's from when I was 3, she said, holding up a tiny rocking horse. "Daddy said I wanted a real horse so bad that year that he got me this instead. I cried for like an hour." Sarah laughed. "You did. And then you carried that ornament around for weeks pretending it was real." "I named him Thunderbolt." "That's right. Thunderbolt, the Christmas ornament." When she got to the trident ornament, Emma held it for a long moment. "This one was Daddy's favorite," she said. "He said it reminded him that no matter where he was in the world, part of him was always home with us." Sarah took the ornament from Emma's hands and hung it right at the top of the tree, where it caught the light and gleamed gold. Now he's watching over all of us. That night, they turned off all the lights except for the tree and sat together on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, looking at their work. "It's not like before," Emma said quietly. "No," Sarah agreed, "it's not. But it's still nice. Different nice." "Different nice," Sarah repeated. "I like that." Emma leaned her head against her mother's shoulder. "Do you think Daddy can see us, like wherever he is?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment, choosing her words carefully. She didn't want to make promises she couldn't keep, didn't want to offer false comfort, but she also didn't want to take away the hope that seemed to sustain her daughter. "I think," she said slowly, "that the people we love never really leave us. They become part of us, like you said, and in that way, yes, I think Daddy sees us, through our eyes, through our hearts." Emma seemed satisfied with this answer. She snuggled closer, her eyes growing heavy. "Mommy?" "Yes, baby? I'm glad we moved here. I know it was hard, leaving San Diego and all our memories, but I think Daddy would have wanted us to make new memories. Not forget the old ones, but make new ones too." Sarah kissed the top of her daughter's head, breathing in the scent of her shampoo. "I think you're right, sweetheart. And Lily's here. And Jake, and Mrs. Patterson and Mrs. Harper and Colonel Morrison. We have people now, a team like Mrs. Harper said. We do." Emma's breathing began to even out, sleep pulling her under. Sarah sat there in the glow of the Christmas tree, her daughter warm against her side, and felt something shift in her chest. Not healing, not yet, maybe not ever fully, but something, a beginning, a possibility. She thought about Marcus, about all the Christmas mornings they'd shared, about the way he'd wake up before everyone else to start the coffee and turn on the tree lights so Emma would wake up to magic. She thought about the life they'd built, and the life that had been taken away, and the new life they were trying to build from the wreckage. "I miss you," she whispered into the darkness. "Every second of every day. But I'm going to be okay. We're going to be okay. You made sure of that. You gave us each other." Outside, snow began to fall, rare for Virginia Beach, magical and unexpected. Sarah watched it through the window, white flakes swirling in the streetlights, and smiled. The week before Christmas, Emma's class had a special visitor, Mrs. Patterson had been mysterious about it all morning, deflecting questions with a knowing smile. Emma sat at her desk, trying to focus on her spelling worksheet, but her eyes kept drifting to the door. At 10 shoot exactly, there was a knock. Mrs. Patterson's smile grew wider. "Class, we have a very special guest today. Please welcome Colonel Daniel Morrison." The door opened, and Dan walked in, not in civilian clothes like Emma had seen him at the turkey trot, but in his full army dress uniform, medals gleaming on his chest, his bearing straight and proud. Jake sat up straighter in his seat, pride written all over his face. "Good morning, everyone," Dan said, his voice warm but commanding. "Mrs. Patterson invited me to come talk to you about something very important. Does anyone know what Veterans Day was about?" Hands shot up around the room. Dan called on a girl in the back. "It's when we say thank you to soldiers." "That's right. We honor the men and women who have served in our military, protecting our country and our freedom." Dan moved to stand in front of the whiteboard. "Can anyone tell me what they know about the military?" More hands, more answers. Dan nodded along, adding information, correcting misconceptions gently. Then Derek raised his hand. Emma tensed, remembering the playground, remembering the cruel words about her father. "My dad says," Derek started. "I'm more interested in what you think," Dan interrupted calmly. "What do you think about the military, Derek?" Derek faltered. I think they're brave." "Why do you think that?" "Because they go to dangerous places, and they might get hurt." "That's exactly right." Dan's expression was kind, not accusatory. "Every person who puts on a uniform knows they might not come home. They do it anyway because they believe some things are worth fighting for, worth dying for." He paused. "Does anyone in this class have a family member who served in the military?" Jake's hand went up immediately. Then, slowly, Emma raised hers. Dan nodded at Emma. "Emma, would you like to tell the class about your dad?" Emma felt the familiar flutter of nervousness, but beneath it was something else. Pride. Certainty. She stood up from her desk, smoothing the fabric of the jacket she still wore every day. "My daddy was a Navy SEAL," she said, her voice clear and strong. "He served for 15 years. He went on lots of missions to help people in other countries. He saved lives. She swallowed hard. He died doing his job, protecting people." The room was silent. Not the uncomfortable silence of her first day, but a different kind, respectful, attentive. "Your daddy was a hero," Dan said softly. "One of the bravest men I ever knew. I served with him, you know." Emma nodded. "He told me about you. He said you were a good leader, that you cared about your people." Dan's eyes glistened. "That means more than you know." He turned back to the class. "Emma's father gave everything for his country, for all of us. When you see someone in uniform, when you hear about veterans, remember people like Chief Petty Officer Marcus Mitchell. Remember that they were real people with families who loved them, with children who missed them." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, holding it up so the class could see. It was a challenge coin, the kind military units gave out, with the SEAL trident on one side. "This belonged to Emma's father. He gave it to me years ago after a mission where he saved my life. I'd like to give it to Emma now, in front of all of you, so she knows how much her daddy meant to all of us who served with him." Emma walked to the front of the room, her heart pounding. Dan knelt down so he was at her level and pressed the coin into her palm. "Your daddy would be so proud of you," he said, quiet enough that only she could hear. "You carry his legacy every day, not just in that jacket, but in who you are. Don't ever forget that." "I won't," Emma whispered back. She returned to her seat, the coin clutched in her hand, warm from Dan's grip. Around her she felt the atmosphere shift. Children who had ignored her were looking at her with new eyes. Even Derek was staring at the floor, something like shame on his face. At recess, something unexpected happened. Emma was sitting under her tree with Lily, examining the challenge coin, when Derek approached. Alone this time, without his usual entourage. "Hey," he said, scuffing his shoe in the dirt. Lily immediately tensed, moving closer to Emma protectively. "What do you want?" "I want to talk to Emma, if that's okay." Emma looked up at him, trying to read his expression. He didn't look mean. He looked small, uncertain. "Okay," she said. Derek sat down on the grass across from her, crossing his legs. "I wanted to say I'm sorry for what I said on your first day, about your dad." Emma waited. "It was really mean, and I didn't know. I mean, I knew, but I didn't understand." He picked at the grass, not meeting her eyes. "My dad says stuff about the military because his brother, my uncle, got hurt really bad in a war. He came back different, broken, my dad says. So my dad's angry, but he's not angry at soldiers. He's angry at war." Emma considered this. It didn't excuse what Derek had said, but it explained it, and explanation was the first step to understanding. "My daddy came back different sometimes too," she said. "From his missions. He'd have bad dreams, but he was still my daddy." Derek nodded. "Colonel Morrison, when he was talking, I thought about my uncle, how he's a real person, with family. And then I thought about you, and how your dad was a real person too, and I felt really bad about what I said." "It was mean," Emma agreed. "I know. I'm really sorry." Emma looked at the coin in her hand, at the trident that represented everything her father had been. He taught her about forgiveness too, about how holding on to anger only hurt yourself. "I forgive you," she said. Derek's head snapped up. "Really? Really? But you have to promise not to be mean to me anymore, or to anyone else. Bullying is for people who are scared and don't know how to deal with their feelings. You can be better than that." Derek nodded earnestly. "I promise. I'm going to be better." "Good." Emma held out her hand. "Friends." Derek looked at her hand like it might bite him. Then slowly, he took it. "Friends." Lily watched this exchange with wide eyes. "Did that just happen?" "It just happened," Emma confirmed. Wow, you're like a superhero or something. Emma laughed. I'm not a superhero. I'm just a girl who misses her daddy. Same thing, Lily said. Same thing. Christmas morning dawned grey and cold, snow still dusting the ground from the rare storm days before. Emma woke early, as she always did on Christmas, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and sadness. For as long as she could remember, Christmas morning had started with her daddy carrying her downstairs on his shoulders, both of them whooping and laughing, while her mother pretended to be asleep. This year, she walked downstairs alone. But when she reached the living room, she stopped. The tree was lit, its lights twinkling in the early morning dimness. Beneath it were presents, wrapped in gold and silver paper, but that wasn't what made her breath catch. Standing in front of the tree, wearing Santa hats and ridiculous matching pajamas, were Jake, Lily, and their families. Dan Morrison, Jake's mom Linda, Lily's parents, and her mother Sarah, who was smiling through tears. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," Sarah said. "What? What is this?" Lily bounced forward. "Your mom invited us. She said Christmas should be about family. And since your daddy can't be here, she wanted to make sure you had lots of people who love you." Emma looked around the room at all the faces, all the people who had come into her life in the past few months. Her team, her people. "But you should be with your own families," she said, even as her heart swelled. "You are our family," Dan said firmly. "In the military, we take care of our own. Your daddy was one of us, which means you're one of us. Always." Linda Morrison stepped forward, holding a package. "I brought cinnamon rolls, homemade. I understand they were Marcus's favorite." Sarah let out a watery laugh. "He would eat a whole pan by himself. Used to drive me crazy. Then we honor his memory by eating cinnamon rolls for breakfast," Dan declared. "And probably lunch. I made 3 pans." The morning unfolded in a blur of wrapping paper and laughter and far too many cinnamon rolls. Emma opened presents she didn't even know she wanted. Books about sea life from Lily, a running watch from the Morrisons, art supplies from Lily's parents. But the best gift came last. Sarah handed Emma a small box wrapped in simple white paper. "This is from me," she said, "and from Daddy." Emma's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a necklace, a delicate gold chain with a small pendant. A trident. "Your daddy ordered this for you," Sarah explained, "before his last deployment. He wanted you to have it for Christmas. It was supposed to match a bracelet he was going to get me." She held up her wrist, where a gold bracelet gleamed, a tiny trident charm dangling from it. "I found them in his things." He'd written a note. She handed Emma a folded piece of paper, worn at the edges. Emma opened it carefully, her heart pounding. "My dearest Emma," she read aloud, her voice shaking. "If you're reading this, then my wish didn't come true and I'm not there to give you this myself. But I need you to know, you are the greatest adventure of my life. Being your daddy has been my honor and my joy. Wear this necklace and remember, you have the heart of a seal, brave, strong, never quit. I love you to the moon and back, to the stars and beyond, and all the way to heaven and back again. Your daddy." The room was silent except for soft crying. Emma clutched the necklace to her chest, the pendant pressing against the emblem on her jacket, which she was, of course, still wearing. "Will you help me put it on?" she asked her mother. Sarah's hands were trembling, but she managed to clasp the necklace around Emma's neck. The trident settled just above her heart. "There," Sarah whispered. "Now he's always with you, inside and out." Emma hugged her mother fiercely, feeling the arms of others joining them, Jake and Lily, Dan and Linda, Lily's parents. A group hug that filled the living room that felt for just a moment like it could fill the hole in Emma's heart. "Merry Christmas, Daddy," Emma whispered. "I love you too." Winter melted into spring, and with it came changes Emma hadn't expected. The nightmares that had plagued her since her father's death began to fade. She still thought about him every day, still talked to him at night, still wore his jacket even as the weather warmed, but the sharp, cutting grief had softened into something else, a steady ache, manageable, livable. Sarah was changing too. She'd started seeing a therapist, had joined a support group for Gold Star families, had even begun dating again, tentatively, carefully, with full disclosure to Emma about every step. "How do you feel about me going to dinner with someone?" she'd asked one evening, nervous as a teenager. Emma had considered the question seriously. "Does he make you happy?" "He makes me smile." "Then I think Daddy would want you to go." The man's name was Michael. He was an architect, had never served in the military, had lost his wife to cancer 3 years ago. He understood grief. He understood moving forward without forgetting. And he understood that he would never replace Marcus, didn't want to, just wanted to be part of whatever came next. Sarah was nervous for their first date in a way she hadn't been nervous in years. She changed outfits 3 times, asked Emma's opinion on each one. "The blue one," Emma said definitively. "Daddy always said you looked beautiful in blue." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "You think he'd be okay with this, with me going out?" Emma walked over and took her mother's hands. "Daddy loved you more than anything. He'd want you to be happy. He wouldn't want you to be alone forever." "When did you get so grown up?" "I've always been this grown up. You just didn't notice." Sarah laughed and hugged her daughter. "I love you, you know that." "I know. I love you too. Now go have fun, and don't stay out too late." "Yes, ma'am." The date went well. Michael was kind and funny and didn't try too hard. He asked about Marcus, listened to Sarah's stories without jealousy or discomfort. He told her about his wife, about the cancer that took her, about learning to be a single dad to his daughter Sophie. They had dinner, walked along the beach, talked until the restaurant closed. When Michael dropped Sarah off at home, he didn't try to kiss her. He just smiled and said he'd like to see her again if she was interested. She was. Over the next few months, Michael became a regular presence in their lives, not intrusive, not trying to fill a role that wasn't his. Just there, steady, patient. Emma met him on a Saturday in April at a picnic in the park. He brought his daughter Sophie, a quiet girl, a year younger than Emma, who loved books and hated sports. "I hear you're a runner," Michael said, shaking Emma's hand with the gravity of an adult meeting an adult. "My daddy taught me." "Your daddy sounds like he was an incredible man. Your mum told me about him. I hope it's okay that I'm here." Emma studied him, his kind eyes, his nervous smile, the way he looked at her mother like she was something precious. "It's okay," she said, "but you have to know something." "What's that?" "My daddy's always going to be my daddy, no matter what. I would never try to take his place," Michael said seriously. "I have my own place, a different one. If you'll let me." Emma nodded slowly. "Okay, we can try." She and Sophie ended up spending the afternoon together, an unlikely pair who discovered they both loved the same book series and shared a fear of thunderstorms. By the time the picnic was over, they were making plans for a sleepover. "I think that went well," Sarah said on the drive home. "Michael's nice," Emma agreed. "Sophie, too. What did you think about all of it?" Emma looked out the window at the passing landscape, the trees just starting to green, the sky a soft, hopeful blue. "I think Daddy would say life is for the living, that we should grab happiness wherever we find it, and that he'd kick your butt if you spent the rest of your life alone." Sarah burst out laughing. "He would absolutely say that. So I think it's good, different but good." Sarah reached over and squeezed Emma's hand. "Have I told you lately how proud I am of you?" "Only every day." "Well, I'm telling you again. You are the strongest person I know, Emma Mitchell, and I'm so lucky to be your mom." Emma squeezed back. "I'm lucky to be your daughter." The end of the school year approached with the inevitability of a sunset. 2nd grade was almost over, and with it, Emma's first year at Ocean View Elementary. Mrs. Patterson organized a special ceremony for the last day of school, a time for students to share what they'd learned, not just academically, but about themselves and each other. When Emma's turn came, she walked to the front of the room without notes, without preparation. She knew what she wanted to say. "When I started at this school, I was really scared," she began. "My daddy had just died, and we'd moved to a new place where I didn't know anyone. I didn't think I could make it through a single day." She paused, looking around at the faces of her classmates, Lily with her encouraging smile, Jake with his quiet nod, even Derek who gave her a thumbs up. "But then I learned something important. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway. My daddy taught me that. And this school, all of you, helped me understand it." She touched the necklace at her throat, the trident warm against her skin. "I learned that it's okay to ask for help, that friends are like a team and teams help each other. I learned that people who seem mean sometimes are just hurting inside, and that kindness can change things. I learned that you can be sad and happy at the same time, that grief and joy can exist together." She looked at Mrs. Patterson, who was dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "Most of all, I learned that my daddy isn't really gone. He's in here." She pointed to her heart. "And here," she touched her head, "and in this jacket and this necklace, and in me, in who I am and who I'm going to be." Emma straightened her spine, standing tall. "My name is Emma Mitchell. My daddy was a Navy SEAL, and he was a hero. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be as brave as he was. Thank you for helping me start." She walked back to her seat to thunderous applause, her cheeks flushing. Lily hugged her. "That was amazing. I almost threw up. But you didn't. That's what matters." After school, Sarah was waiting at the pickup line, but she wasn't alone. Dan Morrison stood beside her, both of them wearing dress clothes, which was unusual for a regular school day. "What's going on?" Emma asked, suddenly nervous. "We have somewhere to be," Sarah said. "A surprise." They drove to the Naval Station Norfolk, the largest naval base in the world. Emma had been here before, when her father was stationed nearby, but it had been years. The familiar sight of ships and uniforms made her chest tighten. Dan led them through security checkpoints, past buildings and barracks, to a small memorial garden she'd never seen before. "This is the SEAL Memorial Garden," he explained. "It was dedicated last year to honor the SEALs who've given their lives in service." In the center of the garden was a wall with names etched in granite. Dan led Emma to a specific panel halfway down. There, carved in stone, CPO Marcus James Mitchell. Emma reached out and touched the letters, feeling the grooves beneath her fingers. "Every year on Memorial Day, there's a ceremony here," Dan said. "But today we wanted to bring you, so you could see that your daddy is remembered, that his sacrifice is honored, that he will never be forgotten." Emma traced her father's name again and again, tears streaming down her face. "I'm proud of you, Daddy," she whispered. "I'm going to make you proud of me too." Sarah knelt beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "He already is, baby. He already is." They stayed in the garden until the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Emma sat on a bench, her mother on one side, Dan on the other, and told stories about her father. Funny ones, sad ones, ordinary ones that felt extraordinary now that he was gone. "He used to make pancakes in the shape of animals," she said. "They never looked like animals. They looked like blobs, but he'd insist they were perfect." "That's clearly an elephant, Emma. Use your imagination." Sarah laughed. "He once made one he swore was a dolphin. It looked like a potato. He tried to teach me to swim by throwing me in the pool. Mom was so mad. I was furious, but you swam." "I swam." Emma smiled at the memory. "He said fear was the only thing holding me back. Once I let go of the fear, I could do anything." Dan cleared his throat. "I remember one mission early in our deployment together. We were pinned down, taking fire from all directions. Most of us were panicking, not Marcus. He was calm as a cucumber, started cracking jokes, said panic never solved anything, but laughter could get you through anything. He saved us that day, not with some heroic action, just by keeping us calm." "That sounds like him," Sarah said softly. The sky darkened, stars beginning to appear. Emma looked up at them, at the vast expanse of the universe where her daddy might be watching. "To the moon and back," she said softly. "To the stars and beyond," Sarah finished. Dan Morrison cleared his throat. "I have something for you, Emma. Both of you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 items. The first was a medal, gleaming gold and blue. "This is your father's Navy Cross," he said. "It was awarded posthumously for his actions on his last mission. He saved 6 men that day, including me." His voice broke. "He pushed me out of the way, took the hit that should have been mine. I've never forgiven myself." Sarah's hand went to her mouth. "Dan, I wanted you to have this. You should have received it at the ceremony, but you weren't there. You'd already moved, and the notification got lost in the system. I've been holding on to it, waiting for the right time." He pressed the medal into Sarah's hands. "He earned this. You should have it." Sarah clutched the medal to her chest, sobbing silently. "And this," Dan continued, turning to Emma, "is something I had made for you." He opened a small box to reveal a bracelet. It was delicate, meant for a child's wrist, with small charms attached, a trident, a heart, and a star. "The trident is for your daddy," Dan explained. "The heart is for the love he had for you. And the star is for the stars beyond, where he's watching over you." Emma held out her wrist, and Dan clasped the bracelet around it. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for remembering him." "Always," Dan promised. "Always." As they left the memorial garden that evening, Emma walked between her mother and Dan, her hand in Sarah's, the bracelet catching the last light of the day. She thought about the past year, the grief, the fear, the loneliness, but also the friendship, the love, the moments of unexpected joy. She thought about her daddy, about everything he'd taught her, everything he'd given her. She thought about the jacket she still wore, the one that had started it all on that first day of school, when she'd walked into a room full of strangers, and the silence had told her she didn't belong. But she did belong. She belonged here, with these people. In this life her daddy had helped build for her, even after he was gone. The silence that had greeted her that first day hadn't been judgment or rejection. It had been a pause, a moment for the world to recognize something special. A 7-year-old girl, drowning in her father's jacket, wearing his legacy on her chest, carrying his love in her heart. And the world had responded, not with cruelty, though there had been some, but with kindness, with support, with the kind of community her daddy had always believed in. "The brotherhood doesn't end when we take off the uniform," he'd told her once. "It extends to everyone we love, and everyone they love. We're all connected." Emma understood that now. She was connected to her daddy, to her mother, to Lily and Jake and Dan, and all the people who had become her team. As they drove home through the darkening streets, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it and smiled. "Michael and Sophie are coming over for dinner tomorrow," she said. "Is that okay?" "Yeah," Emma said. "That's good. Sophie wants to know if you'll teach her to run." Emma laughed. "She hates sports. Maybe she needs the right teacher." Emma thought about it. Teaching Sophie to run. Sharing what her daddy had given her. Passing on the legacy. "Okay," she said. "Tell her I'll teach her, but she has to promise not to quit." "I'll tell her." They pulled into the driveway of their house. They're home now, really home. And Emma got out, breathing in the night air. Spring was in full bloom, flowers bursting from gardens, trees heavy with new leaves. She looked up at the sky, finding the brightest star she could see. "I did it, Daddy," she said quietly. "I didn't quit. I was brave, and I'm going to keep being brave every day, until I see you again." The star twinkled, and Emma smiled. She walked inside, where warmth and light and the smell of dinner awaited her. Her mother was already in the kitchen, Dan's car pulling away down the street, the house filled with the sounds of ordinary life. But there was nothing ordinary about it. Every moment was a gift. Every day was a chance to honor the man who had given her everything. Emma Mitchell, 7 years old, daughter of a Navy SEAL, took off her jacket for the first time since that first day of school. She hung it carefully on the hook by the door, letting it rest. She didn't need to wear it anymore, not because she'd forgotten, but because she'd finally understood. Her daddy wasn't in the jacket. He was in her, and that was enough. 2 years later, the gymnasium of Ocean View Elementary was packed with families. Folding chairs had been set up in neat rows, American flags hung from the walls, and a podium stood at the front of the room, decorated with red, white, and blue streamers. Emma, now 9 years old, sat in the front row with her mother and Michael, Sophie beside her. They were holding hands the way sisters do. It had been a long 2 years. Not easy, never easy, but full of life and love and the slow, steady work of healing. Sarah and Michael had gotten married in a small ceremony on the beach, Emma serving as maid of honor, Sophie as flower girl. They were a blended family now, imperfect and beautiful. The nightmares had stopped. The sharp edges of grief had worn smooth. Emma still thought about her daddy every day, still talked to him sometimes, still wore the necklace and bracelet every moment. But the weight of his absence had become bearable. Part of her, not the whole of her. "Welcome, everyone, to our annual Veterans Day Assembly," the principal announced from the podium. "Today, we're honored to have a very special presentation from one of our fourth-grade students." Emma stood, smoothing her dress, navy blue, of course, and walked to the front of the room. 100 faces looked back at her, including Lily and Jake, who gave her encouraging waves. She took a breath. My name is Emma Mitchell," she began, her voice clear and strong, projecting to the back of the room the way she'd practiced. 2 years ago, I stood in front of a second-grade classroom and introduced myself. I said my daddy was a Navy SEAL and that he had died protecting people." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Today, I want to tell you more about him. Not about how he died, about how he lived." She pressed a button on the remote in her hand, and the screen behind her lit up with a photo, her daddy, young and smiling, in his navy whites. Marcus James Mitchell was born in Austin, Texas. He was the first person in his family to go to college. He joined the Navy because he wanted to serve his country, and he became a SEAL because he wanted to be the best. Another photo, Marcus with his team. Faces partially blurred for security, but all of them grinning at the camera. He served for 15 years. He went on missions I can't tell you about, to places I can't name. But I can tell you this: every mission, he was fighting for us. For families like yours, for kids like us to be able to go to school and be safe. Another photo, Marcus and Sarah on their wedding day. He married my mom because, and I quote, "she was the only woman tough enough to put up with him." Laughter rippled through the audience. Sarah was crying and laughing at the same time. Another photo, Marcus holding a newborn Emma, his face soft with wonder. "He became my dad, and he said it was the best thing that ever happened to him. He taught me to swim and run and read. He taught me to be brave, even when I was scared. He taught me that love is the strongest force in the universe." Emma clicked to a final photo. It was the last one taken of their family together at Christmas 2.5 years ago. Marcus, Sarah, and Emma in matching ridiculous sweaters in front of the biggest Christmas tree Emma had ever seen. "My daddy died on February 12th 2 years ago. He was protecting his team, protecting strangers, protecting everyone he could. That was who he was." She looked out at the audience. "Today is Veterans Day, a day to honor everyone who has served. But I want you to remember something. They're not just soldiers. They're moms and dads and sons and daughters. They're people who love and are loved. They're heroes, yes, but they're also human." She touched the necklace at her throat. "My daddy is a hero. He's also my daddy. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making him proud." She stepped back from the podium as the gymnasium erupted in applause. She saw her mother sobbing, Michael's arm around her. She saw Dan Morrison in the back row, standing at attention, tears streaming down his face. She saw Lily and Jake on their feet, cheering. She saw in her mind's eye her daddy's face, that big smile, those kind eyes. "I love you, Daddy," she whispered, too quiet for anyone to hear. "To the moon and back." And somewhere in the space between stars, she could almost hear his voice answering, To the stars and beyond, baby girl. To the stars and beyond. The end. But not really, because stories like Emma's don't end. They continue in every child who loses a parent too soon, in every family that picks up the pieces and keeps going, in every person who chooses courage over fear. Emma Mitchell would grow up. She would become a runner, like her father. She would struggle and succeed and fail and try again. She would fall in love, have her heart broken, find love again. She would carry her father's legacy in everything she did, not as a burden, but as a gift. And somewhere along the way, she would realize what her father had been trying to teach her all along. The jacket didn't make her brave. The necklace didn't make her strong. She had always been those things because she was her father's daughter. Because love, real love, the kind that transcends death, lives on in the people we leave behind. Emma Mitchell walked out of that gymnasium into the bright November sunshine, her mother on one side, her stepfather and sister on the other, her team, her people. Her father walked with them too, in memory, in love, in the trident that gleamed at her throat and the heart that beat strong in her chest. The room had gone silent when they saw the Navy SEAL emblem on the little girl's jacket, but Emma Mitchell had taught them all to speak again, with courage, with kindness, with the unshakable belief that love never dies. It just changes form, and it lives forever.